So we just looked at how to build a really simple example that allowed us to experiment on creating like a split view with a left hand side and a right hand side. And so let's reuse this. All right, please. Let's reuse this so that we can implement this the splitter for kind of like a website editor that would allow you to have on the left hand side the list of all the websites, and then on the right hand side a form that would allow you to edit that a particular website. Yes. So let's do that. We had already also implemented. Where is? What do we do with the? Okay, it's we had it here, right? We had it somewhere here. Let's see, assignments and graduate, and we were working here, right? What I'd like to be able to do is click on this and navigate to website edit. And so here's where we want the list of the websites on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side a form, right? So what we could do is get started with the website list already that we already have, right? This website list, and since it already contains the list of all the websites, that could be the left-hand side, right? So that's a good place to start. So let me copy that into website edit, and in website edit, what we want to do is that this left-hand side that lists all these websites, we want that to be the left-hand side of something bigger, right? So let's do that. Let's what we can do is grab this entire UL, right, and make it the left-hand side of what we were just playing around with. So let's go back to the split, and let's grab these two divs, or these divs over here, right, with the left and the right-hand side, and let's bring it to our edit page here, right? So let's paste it in there. There we go. All right. We don't really care for the colors. All right, so let's remove the colors. And we don't really care for the content, the dummy content that we had, right? So this is basically the layout, right? So on the left-hand side, we want to move this UL. So let's copy this UL and cut it from here. Cut it from here and paste it inside the left-hand side. Right? So this is the left-hand side. There it is. All right. So let's see. If we refresh our website edit, which didn't exist before, now it exists. And now that we notice that we have the list of the pages on the left-hand side as we were hoping to have. Right. Notice that as it becomes smaller and smaller, right? Notice that the columns disappear. But it looks like our cog just doesn't fit, right? One size is not enough. One column width is not enough. Let's see what's happening. Let's inspect it and see if we can fix it somehow. Let's make it to be its smallest that it could possibly be. Oops. All right, it disappears. Notice that the left-hand side disappears after a while. But this is one of the smallest layouts. Very good. All right, so this is where the cog lives. Let's see what's around it. That's the column XS1. Very good. And then we have these. These are not appearing. What about this this first one here where we have the crash? Notice that there's no way that the cog is going to fit in there, right? So we might want to revisit this, right, and perhaps reduce the size of these columns so that the cog does indeed fit in there, right? Or another way that we could do it is that the cog just basically is part of the of this column contents, right? Just put it in here and just have it pull to the right-hand side. You could do that. Right? We could do it either way. Right? I'll leave that for you to play around with. Okay. Let's focus on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side, we're going to have a form, right, that we want to be able to update one of these that we have on the left-hand side. So let's create the form on the right-hand side. So it's going to be way down here. This is a form. And in here we're going to have, let's see what the assignment says. We don't need that anymore. And here's the assignment. It's going to have the website name, the website description, and a delete button. Right? So let's do that. Let's have that here, the input field, right? And let's paint it with a form control. Right? See what that looks like. There's our form control. There it is. Okay, very good. Let's now add an ID so that we can refer to it in a label, right? So we can highlight it. So we'll call this maybe name, and then put a label on it that says name, and we'll say that this is a label for name. There we go. Right, so that we have the label. If we click on it, the input field becomes focused. Right. Let's do the same thing for the description. Right. So we'll have maybe a text area for the description, and we'll give it an ID, and this will be a description, and then we'll be able to refer to it from the label, right? If we say that it's for that particular text area. Yes, right, and this will be description. All right, everybody good? All right, so let's see what that looks like. If we it looks ugly. Let's style it with form control. Again, text area, input field, they all by default behave inline, right? They render from left to right, right, for a particular size. So let's change that and paint it a little bit with form control, right, so that it becomes a block element, takes up the entire width of its container. Very good. Notice if I click on it, it seems to have already some text in it, right? And that's because when I entered text area, I pressed the return key, right, and it added all this extra white space here, right? All this extra white space over here, right? So any content that you have in between the opening and close of the text area is part of the content that gets displayed in there. So let's remove that white space, right, so that it no longer has anything. It starts at the beginning. Everybody okay? All right. Notice that if I have more than one attribute on an element, it makes it easy to read if you put each attribute in its own line, as if it were, a legitimate line of code, right? You don't put lines of code, strung together from left to right. You put them in its individual line. So same thing here. It makes it easier to read, right? Remember, you're coding for others, not for yourself, right? Folks, we're going to review your code, and if they're okay with maintaining your source code, they'll accept it or reject it. All right. All of these perhaps might have also placeholders. So we'll say maybe, and you would put here examples of what you're looking for, right? Names of websites, right? So we have a placeholder there, and another placeholder here. Placeholder. Okay. So big, it is its own country. Facebook is so big, it could be its own country. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's add a couple things here. Let's add a button. So I typically prefer to use hyperlinks as buttons, since you can have hyperlinks render like buttons and behave like buttons, but you can't have buttons behave like hyperlinks, right? So hyperlinks are more flexible, right? So let's and if let's paint it as a button. Let's paint it as a button that takes up the entire width of the page block. And since it's a delete button, let's paint it red. Right, so it's button danger. Okay, so we have delete. Notice that let's override a couple things here. let's first override the size of the text area so it's a little bigger. Right? So let's put here the number of rows is at least 5 rows. There it is. So it's a little bigger, a little more space. Although the browser already gives you here a control that allows you to resize the text area, but the minimum is 5 rows. Right? Notice that the delete button and the text area are flush with one another, and so that doesn't look good. I thought we had done that. We have fixed that. I think maybe we fixed it only for input fields. So let's see if we could override that. Let's go to our style sheet, and our style sheet, there it is. So this is where we had done it for all the input fields. Maybe let's be a little more specific. Not all input fields, maybe only the input fields that have a form control applied to them. Right? So only the ones that have style as bootstrap input fields. Right? But I want this also for the text area as well. Right? Not only for the input field. Right? Notice that this doesn't take care of the text area. So instead, what we could do is I want to apply the same style also for text area. So I can use a comma and say that that the following rule will also trigger, right? If there's an element of type a text area with a form control applied to it, I want the same 5 pixels, right? To be consistent across the entire website. So I refresh, and now I have my 5 pixels there. And it's consistent across the entire website. Make sense? All right. Also, to make it easier to read, it'd be nice if you add an additional white space here, so that I can read all the elements, all the rules that trigger this transformation. Right? If instead you have lots and lots and lots of these rules that all apply the same transformation, it makes it very, very hard to read if you all string them all in the same line. Right? So put everything in its own line. What else? So this hyperlink, presumably, once you remove it, it's supposed to navigate back to remove a website. Is supposed to navigate back to the original list of websites minus the website you just removed. Right? Obviously, we're not going to remove anything just yet because we don't have any source code, any logic here. So let's leave that. So we're going to go back to website list. So if we click on delete, it goes back to the website list, right? Notice how it looks as if it expanded and it contracted, right? The left-hand side contracted and expanded. Everybody good? Now, since we're editing, presumably this is supposed to have some default values. Let's add some default values here. So there's a placeholder, but also the value, the default value that we're going to show here. So let's put blogger. Right, so that populates the content of that input field. Right, and notice that if when you remove it, it goes back to the placeholder. Right. Same thing for the description. For the text area, you don't use the value. Right? There is no value attribute in the text area. The actual content goes in between the opening and closing of the text area. So this would be lorem ipsum. So and it has that content. Right? It doesn't have to be the content that I gave you. It could be your own content. Right? Everybody good? Right? Any questions so far? All right. Now for the website new, right? It's going to be identical to this, almost identical. It's just not going to have the default content, right? So you already have the website new, right? Almost done, right? But the navigation to the website new is going to come off of this hyperlink from the plus. The plus is going to navigate to website new, right? Also, these hyperlinks, these top level ones, in the headers change as you navigate, right? It shows you where you are in the website, and also provides links to be able to go back to the previous page, right? I'll leave that for you to complete, all right? All right.